Standing in at 6'9", 7'2" on skates, Zdeno Chara was the tallest player to ever play in the National Hockey League. The Czechoslovakian native could rip the puck well over 100 miles per hour, crush opponents with punishing hits, fight anyone brave enough to challenge him, and was frankly a complete nightmare to play against. But the road to the NHL wasn't easy for Big Z, and he had to outwork everybody to become a dominant NHL defenseman, 7-time All-Star, Norris Trophy winner, and Stanley Cup champion. Despite playing on the Junior B team as a teenager in Slovakia, Chara told himself that he was not going to give up. He finally got a big break when the B team played a game right after the A team, and some of the scouts noticed Chara and wondered why a guy his size and with his skating ability was on the B squad. When Big Z found out that scouts were checking in on him, and when he was going to play, he became more motivated than ever. He ended up getting moved up to the Junior A team and got to practice with the Czech Pro team as well. In 1996, the New York Islanders would end up selecting Zdeno Chara in the 3rd round, 56th overall, based on VHS tapes sent by a scout who was watching him in the Czech Republic. After getting drafted to the NHL, Z would end up getting drafted to the WHL by the Prince George Cougars, where he would go and play for a year before his NHL career. When he got to Prince George, the team literally didn't have a jersey that fit him, so they had to stitch multiple sweaters together. Playing for the Cougars, Chara was fighting some extremely tough guys in what was known as the toughest junior league in hockey at the time, and he was also enduring 17-hour bus rides and working at a car wash over the summer to help out his billet family. He pushed through it, however, and made the most of his time playing junior hockey. Over the next few seasons, Zdeno would start his NHL career with the Islanders, getting his feet wet as a younger player, and really still growing into his body as well as getting acclimated to the pro game. In his final season with the Isles, Chara played all 82 games for the first time, putting up a career-high 157 penalty minutes and just 9 total points. And in 2001, he would be a part of a trade that would go down as one of the best in Ottawa Senators history and one that would be huge for the future of his career. The Islanders would receive star forward Alexei Yashin in exchange for Zdeno Chara, Bill Muckle, and the 2001 first-round pick, which ended up being the 2nd overall selection, Jason Spezza. As soon as Chara got to Ottawa, he noticed a huge difference from his time with the Islanders. The game was broken down much more into details, and they wanted to bring out much more of an offensive game for Zdeno. He started to study other great defensemen like Nicholas Lidstrom and really became a student of the game, working on his offensive skills while also learning tendencies and trying to shut down some of the best players in hockey. And he was doing all this while also fighting some of the toughest guys in the league and playing over 25 minutes a night. In his first year with Ottawa, he'd score a career-high 10 goals and 23 points. And the next year, he put up 39 points and finished top 10 in the Norris Trophy vote. The next 2 years, he'd have back-to-back All-Star appearances, scoring 16 goals each season and over 40 points as well. In 2004, he was the runner-up to Scott Niedermayer for the Norris Trophy, and after the lockout in 2006, he finished 4th in the Norris Trophy vote. The Ottawa Senators had a stacked team, but at the end of the 2005-06 season, both Chara and fellow defenseman Wade Redden had expiring contracts, and the team realized they'd likely only be able to keep one. Big Z would be the odd man out of Ottawa, and he would hit the free agent market on July 1st. Chara would decide to sign with the Boston Bruins for 5 years and $37.5 million, and the team almost immediately made him the captain. In his first season there, the Bruins missed out on the playoffs and had a lackluster year, but after this, they would build the foundation for what would become one of the NHL's most consistent franchises for the next decade plus. The next 2 seasons, Chara had arguably the 2 best years of his career, scoring 17 and 19 goals in back-to-back seasons, tallying 50-plus points each year, and winning his first Norris Trophy for Best Defenseman in the 2008-09 season. In addition, the Bruins were making the playoffs, and despite a few early exits, they were primed and ready to make a long run, which they did in 2011. Boston had an extremely well-balanced team in the 2010-11 campaign, with young centers David Krejci, Patrice Bergeron, and Nathan Horton, young wingers Milan Lucic and Brad Marchand, coupled with veterans like Mark Recchi and Michael Ryder. And Chara was the leader on defense, but had some help with guys like Dennis Seidenberg, Johnny Boychuk, and Andrew Ferentz. And in net, the Bruins had the best goalie tandem in hockey at the time, with Vezina Trophy winner Tim Thomas, as well as a young Tuukka Rask backing him up. The Bruins would go all the way to the finals and match up with a Vancouver Canucks team that was dominant throughout the regular season. The series was an absolute battle, but Boston would take down Vancouver in 7 games, and Zdeno Chara became the 2nd ever European captain to hoist the Stanley Cup. Nick Lidstrom being the first. Each of the next 3 seasons, Chara would finish at least top 5 in the Norris Trophy vote. He was an All-Star 2 of those 3 years as well. And at the 2012 All-Star game, Big Z ripped a shot 108.8 miles per hour with his ridiculous 155 flex stick and broke the all-time record. This was something that made the skills competition worth watching over the years and became almost a yearly tradition for hockey fans like me. Boston would go back to the Stanley Cup final in 2013, but would be taken down in 6 games by the Chicago Blackhawks. A few years down the line, Boston had another kick at the can in the 2018-19 season, with Chara still the captain, now at 41 years old, and with Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, and a young David Pastrnak, as well as Torrey Krug, Charlie McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk, and Brandon Carlo on defense. And with Tuukka Rask and Jaro Halak between the pipes, the Bees faced off against the St. Louis Blues in the 2019 Stanley Cup final. This series was wild, going all the way to 7 games, but in it, Chara showed why he's one of the toughest players in NHL history. In Game 4, he took a deflected shot off the face, breaking his jaw, and would come back in Game 5 and play with that broken jaw among other injuries, showing what a true warrior he was. Z would play 1 more year with Boston after the Stanley Cup final loss, would end up playing 1 season with the Washington Capitals, and then finishing his NHL career where it all started, playing a year with the New York Islanders in 2021-22 at 44 years old. Zdeno Chara played 1,680 games in the National Hockey League, the 7th most all-time by any player. He also captained the Boston Bruins for 14 seasons and became an absolute legend of the game that was one of the most dominant defensemen in hockey during his prime. The towering defender was incredible to watch, firing blistering slap shots, hammering anyone in his way, and defending his teammates no matter what. At 6'9", Big Z was not just a novelty, and I think we can all agree that there will never be another player quite like him.